some in Israel hope the threat of continuing it might also work. Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Let's get more now. Joining me live is Dan Arbel, a 25-year veteran of the Israeli Foreign Service. He's now a scholar with the Center for Israeli Studies at American University. Israel saying Sunday it won't allow more aid into Gaza. The UN humanitarian chief is calling that a violation of international law. What's your reaction? What do you make of this move by Israel?
I think Israel is doing it as leverage, trying to put some pressure on Hamas to bring it to agree to this new process, which will bring more hostages out in return for steps by Israel to resume humanitarian aid and also to withdraw from some areas of the Gaza Strip as it committed previously.
You know, it's gotten some international condemnation. Israel says there's enough aid right now to last a few weeks within Gaza. We heard the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, claiming that Hamas is diverting aid for its own use. But, you know, just looking at this move, it seems to be something that the U.S. is actually supporting. What do you make of the way the U.S. is kind of involved in negotiations right now, and whether or not they're helpful towards progressing a ceasefire, maybe even moving towards phase two?
Yes, I think that the Trump administration has stated several times that they want phase two to kick in, and they do want to see this process ongoing, and they mainly want to see the hostages continue and come out. They are supporting the Israeli position, but we are waiting to see how Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who will travel to the region this week and discuss the issue with the parties, how would he encourage the continuation of implementation of phase two? Certainly, the Trump administration is giving Israel some leeway right now. At a certain point, though, I think that it's focused on continued implementation. Therefore, I think it will be pressuring Israel if it feels that Israel is being stubborn and not moving forward.
We also heard some rumors that Israel is preparing potentially to resume military activity in Gaza. We saw there in the report that there are some military assets moving back towards the border. Do you anticipate that we could see a resumption of some sort of fighting in the days to come?
So certainly, I think we're seeing Israel move in that direction, and at least prepare for such an eventuality. Obviously, giving resume negotiations and the release of more hostages priority. But if that doesn't work, and if Hamas is refusing to continue with implementation, then I think Israel will be opting to start attacking again or resuming the war. There's a new IDF chief of staff who's coming into office this week, and I think everybody's waiting for him to start working. And he is working on some plans, but it remains to be seen whether Israel will revert to that or will, first of all, prioritize continued negotiations for the resolution of the hostage issue.
You know, looking at this from the Hamas perspective, they've been saying, we support the current plan. We want to move towards phase two, as Israel signed on to. They've also pointed out that Israeli troops have failed to leave the Philadelphia corridor, which is something that the IDF was meant to do on Saturday. Do you view that potentially as a violation of the current deal by Israel?
So right now, the commitment by Israel was to start withdrawing from Philadelphia corridor on day 50. Currently, we're on day 42. And Israel has vowed it will not leave the Philadelphia corridor as long as there's no hostage release. And so I think that Israel right now is not in breach, but it could be in breach within a few days. And I think everything is geared to the arrival of Steve Witkoff to try and untie the knot, allow implementation, hostage release, and Israeli withdrawal, and resume humanitarian aid as well.
Dan, just briefly here, about 30 seconds left, but there have been more demonstrations tonight outside the Prime Minister's residence in Jerusalem, calling on Israel to continue the ceasefire agreement, to do more to secure the release of the hostages. How much do you think the Prime Minister is feeling that domestic pressure there?
Certainly after the release of the hostages last week, and after the Bibas family was brought for burial, I think public opinion in Israel is certainly overwhelmingly in support of the hostage deal and hostage release immediately. And I think that he is feeling the pressure and he's trying to keep all balls in the air as he also fears any concessions that he makes would bring down his coalition. So I think he's trying to maneuver, but certainly public pressure is building on him to bring to the release of the hostages, to an immediate release of the hostages.
Dan Arbel at the Center for Israeli Studies at American University. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.